All right, let's talk about leveling up our FastAPI apps. You've built something, it works, the endpoints are there, but what happens when you need to push it out into the real world? We're going to go from just functional to truly production ready. So yeah, your API works on your machine, but is it really ready? I'm talking about handling things like logging every single request without writing the same code over and over, or securing your API from other random websites, or, running those critical setup tasks the second your app goes live. These are the kinds of growing pains every developer runs into. And you know what I'm talking about, right? You find yourself just copying and pasting logging code into every endpoint, which is a total nightmare to maintain. You start worrying about security, like, what if some other website starts trying to hit your API? And oh man, every time you restart your server, you gotta remember to manually run some script to get things ready. Well, these are the exact problems we are going to solve today. Okay, first up, let's talk about middleware. I want you to think of this as the ultimate gatekeeper for your entire application. Seriously, it's like a security guard standing at the front door, checking everything that comes in and everything that goes out. So what is it, really? It's a special function that sits right in the middle between the user's request and your actual API logic. It intercepts every single request on its way in and every single response on its way back out. Nothing gets past it. And this shows the flow perfectly. A client sends a request, bam, the middleware grabs it first. It does its thing, maybe it logs some details or checks a security token. Then it passes the request along to your endpoint. After your endpoint creates a response, the middleware intercepts that too. Maybe it adds a special header before finally sending it back to the client. It literally wraps around your entire application. So you might be asking, why bother? Well, the huge win here is centralization. Instead of scattering the same logic inside every one of your endpoints, which is just asking for trouble later, you write it once in the middleware. That's it. It's cleaner, way more efficient, and it guarantees that every single request and response gets treated the exact same way. Okay, so much for the theory. Let's see how this actually works in the real world. We're going to look at two of the most common and most powerful uses for middleware, logging and security. Just imagine for a second, you want to log every single request that hits your API, for debugging or maybe for analytics. Without middleware, you'd be putting that logging code in every single endpoint. But with middleware, you write one little function and it automatically captures all the details you need from every request. And this is what that could look like. Your middleware can just grab the HTTP method, the path the user was trying to access, and the final status code of the response. Just like that, you've got this amazing centralized log for monitoring the health of your API, and it only took a few lines of code. All right, logging is great. We can now see everything that's happening. But what about stopping things from happening? What if some other website, maybe a sketchy one, tries to make requests to your API from their user's browser? How do you block that? And that's where something called CORS comes in. CORS, or cross-origin resource sharing, is a very specific type of middleware that acts like a bouncer for your API. It literally has a guest list of approved websites, what we call origins, and it will just block requests from any domain that isn't on the list. And the control you get is super specific. You can say only your own front-end application is allowed to talk to the API. You can even control which HTTP methods are allowed. So maybe you'll let a partner's website get data, but not post new data. You can even whitelist which headers they're allowed to send. It's a fundamental security layer you absolutely need for a modern web API. Okay, so we've got a handle on the traffic flowing in and out of our app. But what about all those one-time tasks? The things that need to happen right when the app starts up or just before it shuts down? This is another huge challenge as your apps get more complex. The absolute best way to think about this is like opening up a shop for the day, right? Before any customers come in, you got to turn on the lights, unlock the doors, get the register going, and at closing time, you do everything in reverse. Lifespan events are basically your automated checklist for that whole process. So, to put it formally, lifespan events are functions that FastAPI will run exactly once during your application's entire life. This makes them the perfect spot for all those crucial setup and cleanup jobs that you definitely don't want to run manually or on every single request. This timeline just lays it all out. On startup, before any requests are even accepted, you can do things like connect to your database or maybe load a heavy machine learning model into memory. Then your app runs normally, handling user traffic. Finally, on shutdown, you can gracefully close that database connection, making sure no data gets lost. It makes your whole application so much more robust. So let's just quickly recap the big ideas.
we've seen how middleware is that central gatekeeper, making things like logging and security a breeze. We've learned that cores is a super important type of middleware that protects you from unwanted requests. And finally, lifespan events give you that automated checklist for startup and shutdown. When you put these together, you've really transformed a simple project into a truly professional application.
So there you have it. By getting a handle on traffic with middleware and managing your app's lifecycle with these events, you've made your API way more secure, observable, and reliable. So the only question left is, what's the next bottleneck you're ready to go out and solve?